Avis.
Got some happy music on, and you've got some happy music on.
Girl,
I
that's
love
my
it.
song. That's to the B. That's Happy Academy's theme song. Tom Woods, thank you. Everybody, I gotta have him. I gotta do a conscious conversation on that. Thank you for giving me that thought, Avis.
Cool.
Yeah, I get new thoughts. So we'll stop. I could play that all day. It's actually
Yes.
on the website. Anyone that's listening, let's pause it.
Okay.
All right. So thank you for those that are joining on Facebook. I have my friend, my prayer partner, Avis, out of North Carolina. Thanks for joining. Anyone who wants to join online so we can interact. I don't really know how to do it on Facebook. So go to myhappyacademy.org and I'll let you in and we can have dialogue because we had a demonstration almost the very next day after the last H2O Monday. And I said, Ava, so you're going to be next Monday? She's like, yeah. So hopefully she's going to have a demonstration every week and I have her every week. And I'm hoping I get more in the audience like that because it's fantastic when we see the power of nature, law of God at work. All right, so I'm going to read
Yeah.
Mother to Recipes for Peace to open us up. Let me go back to that. Um, People are often unreasonable, illogical, and self centered. Forgive them anyway. If you are kind, people may accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you are successful, you will win some false friends and some true enemies. Succeed anyway. If you are honest and frank, people may cheat you. Be honest and frank anyway. What you spend years building, someone could destroy overnight. Build anyway. If you find serenity and happiness, others may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today, people will often forget tomorrow. Do good anyway. Give your give the world the best that you have, and it may never be enough. Give the world the best that you have anyway. You see, in the final analysis, it's between you and God. It was never between you and them anyway. I just love me some Mother Teresa recipe for peace. To connect Mother Teresa, just to go down a rabbit hole for a minute, they're showing a lot of dialogue about the Princess Diana of Wales. You know, she had some turmoil at the end of her life, and I didn't know how much pain she was in. You could see with some, but I mean, anybody who has opportunity to watch that documentary, I think they should. But the one I want to connect with her is Mother Teresa, Mother Teresa, because they met, and I think there's footage where they met, and I'm gonna look this up. But I'm recalling as I'm speaking about seeing Princess Diana story today and reading Mother Teresa's recipe for peace almost every day. They died within months of each other. It was interesting, I think, how people are connected because I thought about the Star Wars movie where Debbie Reynolds was Princess Leia's whatever her real name is. I can't even think of it right now. But they die within days of each other, and how husbands and wives, if they've been together a long time, how they transition within windows of each other. So, not to be talking about transitions only, I talk about our physical transitions while we're on the earth too, because I believe not just when we die we transition, while we are here on the planet we are transitioning. They tell us that our body cells are changing, so that's why I like H2O. H2O Mondays are to remind us that we're predominantly water, so that tells us we're constantly changing. The earth is predominantly water. We need it for food. And I've got a book I'm going to read, a friend gave me, and that's going to be our lesson for tonight after Avis gives us her demonstration. But I want people to know how important water is and whether you're drinking water. And it's also habit two, begin with the end in mind. That's affirmations. And my two Harriets, Harriet Tubman and Harriet Hainsworth, they were pioneers in my life and I honor them with H2O Mondays too. So with that said, H2O is actually a beginning with the end in mind. Habit two, are you demonstrating in your life what you want? And people, we talk too much about what we don't want or what we don't have, or we procrastinate, we put things. Habit two, and I got to facilitate the 7 habits with an IBM for 20 of my 25 years there. So they identified something in me that was already there. We are born with that nature that's there. What the combination was is I could get up in front of people and talk and not be afraid. I didn't know people were afraid. We had Toastmasters because people are afraid of talking. But if you have something to talk about that you are sincere about, the fear goes away. So I'm gonna let Avis tell us. So those who you are listening on Facebook, I hope you can hear her. I'm gonna try to pull it closer. So Avis had a demonstration the very next day. Avis, tell them what happened.
Oh my goodness. So much has happened. I don't know whether it was the gift from my bookkeeper friend at
Oh,
the
you did that
job.
one. You did that one. It was the raise. You went from
Oh my God. Yes, 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 yes. Um, I was sitting in my pod, a fancy name for a classroom, and here comes my new immediate supervisor.
Okay.
So she comes in and she says, Avis, how much are you making right now? And I told her, and she said, well, from now on, you're going to get this. I went from $14 an hour to $19 an hour, and it was due immediately.
I
So
love
when I
that.
got my check on Friday, Miss Avis received the increase.
That is, girl. So that's if that's not a demonstration, I don't know what is. And it happened that fast. So
Oh my God.
congratulations on the God in you showing you how badass God is. Forgive my language, people, but I'm
Help
calling
yourself.
God bad. People have to just excuse me. So
And
that
I
was
will
awesome.
also add this too,
Okay.
Angela, if I
Okay.
may.
Okay.
It pays to be on your job. It
Okay.
pays to be on your A game,
Okay.
because the next thing that my supervisor said to me was, Avis, people are watching. You come to work on time. You do what is required of you at the job. You read to the students. You're there because you want to be there, and it shows. So it pays, as the old people can say, to live right.
Uh, and that's what we talk about. That's what affirmations are. Thank you, Avis, for giving your heart and your confidence to this call for people to know that this really works. I'm this talking. Matter of fact, the less talking I do and the more thinking, right thinking, like you said, that right action, the more right thinking I do, even when my mind tells me, no, it can't be done, or don't do that, or you're afraid, or other people tell you, don't do that. There's a power bigger, and you're showing it. It's at work. So we have someone else that joined. They're on mute that came on board. I want to welcome them just in case they want to add to the conversation. Who do we have there that's joined us on Zoom?
Hey there, my name is Kari. How are you?
Hi, Kari. Welcome. I'm Angela, and
Welcome.
this is Avis. Avis is a brave soul. She's been doing this kind of thing for a while. So welcome for coming.
Thank
Thank you. If
you.
you have any questions, let me know. And we're going to hop right into the meat of our H2O. So thank you for joining. All right. So this book came today. Now I'm going to break this book down because, H2O is water. And water is important. I'm making myself drink more water. I had a checkup recently, and everything seems to be functioning well. But as we get older, my body's not producing the same thing it used to when I had a cycle. And so now if we don't do restoration things on our own, that's why other things start to happen to our body. And one of the things I believe we need to have is more water. And force myself to drink water. I can't put it any other way because I'd rather have a Coke or a Sprite or a juice or a tea or a coffee and I don't even drink that much coffee, but if we could just drink more water, I think that would add to our wellness so much. So that's why I want to call it H2O Monday. So this little book is called Water. And it helps me to be endearing about my book that's coming. It won't be a hardback. It's going to be a softback. I was looking at the pages and all the cute little things. And it's a quick little read. So just bear with me. It's called Water. Get my glasses on. Grandmothers will be wearing glasses for my book. It's almost telling me I need the print to be a little bit bigger because my print might be a little smaller. So when I talk to my publisher, I'm gonna have to ask her, do we need this big a print? So I probably could read it without my glasses. So the first page is water. It's there in a glass to drink. And then they've got a little illustration for that.
Oh, cool.
I know, it's making me think of my project. And it's there in a pot to boil. So they got a little illustration for a little pot to boil. And the faucet to wash. That reminds me of when I was a little girl, we had to hang the clothes outside. Kids today don't know nothing about that. And the watering can to water. So I love watering my plants. So they're watering plants. And the river to drink. I don't know. There's some rivers. I don't know whether we'll drink out of the Chattahoochee anymore, but we used to be able to drink out of the rivers and streams and a canal. I have a friend, my prayer partner is from Honduras, so they swim in canals. Cool. In the clouds, there's water in the clouds. They're showing rain. It is there in the fountain to beautify. I do love fountains. We've got another person joining. Welcome, Marcia. So in the fountains, I love fountains. We used to have a fountain right up the hill where I live, and I don't know whether it's no longer cost effective because it's not on anymore. But we do have a fire department right around the corner and in the hose to put the fire out. So welcome, Marcia or Marcia. And look, it's got her name. It's like in the marsh to create new life. So part of our new journey. So I like that picture. That's a good one.
It's pretty.
Yeah. In the sea to sail on, and I love the sea. There's so many answers. And then everywhere to live. So everything needs water to live. I don't know if anybody ever grew up on a farm or anything or had to go smell a farm, but it's water. Water is everywhere. So there's a little rainbow at the end of it. And I thought it was just a simple book on water. And it gave different ideas to children, like the canal. You know, I'm going to read this to my granddaughter. I don't ever think she's heard the word canal before. You know, it'll introduce words that I think she knows that the rain comes out of the clouds, but who knows? It's something to ask her. It's in the river. It would be nice to let her know that we used to be able to scoop out of the river and drink out of the river. I don't think kids can do that today. It might be contaminated. You know, it's like we can drink out of the hose. I was talking to a friend of mine, and there were not even seat belts when I was a kid. I'm really telling my age now. I'm 62, and I have a scar on my knee where I slid under the seat and when my mom slammed on brakes because we didn't have to have seat belts. So the safety, the things that are happening now, you know, they began with the end in mind when they saw kids probably having accidents and sliding under seats or out of windows. And you know, the decision was made, we need seat belts. And then it went from seat belts to, what is it, those airbags. And, you know, now we got cars that drive themselves. So I guess if you fall asleep at the wheel, you can get home safe. Please, I don't know whether they're making us lazy and I have to pay attention. It's really hard to know. But Marcia, am I saying your name right? Welcome. Or Marcia, how would you pronounce that? You may be on mute. I don't hear you. Do you hear me, Marcia or Marcia that joined? I'm not hearing her. Well, we'll keep going. She might be being quiet. So I thought that book was cute. What do you think? Any ideas come up about the water? It was cute, right? Now it said the four elements of water, which made me go into my project. I began the book I'm doing is called Birds of a Feather. And as I was going through it, my friend asked, is it going to be a hardback? No, it's going to be softback. So I don't like, it's probably be more like these magazines that we get. And I was looking at some of the pages. Some of the pages don't have any artwork on it at all, where every page in my book has some artwork. So
Cool.
this book has actually helped me to appreciate my project a little more. And I think as we begin with the end in mind, we get a little more excited. We want to be excited about life. We really want to feel what happiness is to us. And that's beginning with the end in mind. And it's different for everybody. So if we don't really display that, like Avis's story, she displayed happiness, I think, in her environment. So it got picked up on. And I know that got picked up on in my environment. Ivis and I used to work in the same environment at IBM.
Yes.
So people do notice what you're doing. And whether they notice it or not, you notice what you're doing.
Yes.
So the universe will take care of you. And it seems like it's out of the blue that this is happening for her, but this is what she's been telling Law. She's been planting her
True.
seeds, and this is the harvest.
True.
So we have to figure out what seeds we're planting. So that's a part of what habit 2 is beginning with the end in mind, and we can see what water does. We can't live without water. So what I'm thinking is that we can't live well without affirmations. We need something that we say every day that is a mental idea of a physical equivalent that we want to demonstrate. And if we're not saying it and believing it, then we're not going to see it. One of the things I want to point out too is what are we giving our attention to? I pick up a lot of these magazines. One of them is on the Atlas of the Bible. I think I want to do some work with this book, with the Bible and other books that I like, what the similarities are. But that we talk about addictions and what they've added. When we were growing up, they had, cigarettes and gambling and pills. Well, they've added pills since I've been an adult. Pills was supposed to be good for you, and they gave you the right prescription for what, but we didn't know we were going to get addicted to them because they designed them that way. And then now they've added cell phones. They have added cell phones as an addictive behavior. And I noticed that before, but people are constantly having their cell phones in their hand. And if I leave mine at home, if I'm not going too far, I try not to be panicky about it and have to go get it. And I'm looking at a lot of the technology that we have today. When I didn't have HBO for a month, I wanted to see how I could live without it. And I did other things, but when they called me back and they would give it back at the price that it was supposed to be, I got it back and I'm back to movies. So I'm addicted to movies. I think, I like the movie channel. I could probably spend less money on cable if I didn't have HBO and a couple of these other channels, but because I like it, I get it. So I think when we begin with the end in mind, what we want to do is be able to be, for lack of a better word, addicted to something that we can afford, for one, that does not hurt us. I don't think having HBO hurts me. It doesn't hurt my pocketbook too much, because if it did, I'd change it. So as we look at what we are hooked on, what our vices are, because everybody has words that reference something that we seem to have. People have to have their cup of coffee in the morning. If you, as you think about sharpen the saw, which is being a proactive, begin with the end in mind, that's how we take care of ourselves. If going to the beach is taking care of yourself, go to the beach, take care of yourself. If you like coffee, I think if you work with your doctor and you like coffee every morning, I think that's not a bad idea. You have to figure that out with your doctor. All I'm saying is that what we know and what we are learning is when we begin with the end in mind, what are we drawing ourselves to? What are our desires? So I'm going to read this first things first for the day, and then we're going to go into the 7 steps of treatment. This is more of the natural law part of it, and then I'm going to go into the metaphysical side of it. But first things first is the action piece of the 7 habits. And habit 2 is begin with the end in mind. As you begin to think more in terms of importance, you begin to see time differently. And that's what I want us to focus on. I want us to see time differently, because what we do in our lives, we have whatever from our birth until we stop. What are we doing? So I'm going to read that again. As you begin to think more in terms of importance, you begin to see time differently. So that's why I want everyone to affirm life as much. And it's not to say that bad things don't happen, because the water, they didn't give how it can be a tsunami and flood a whole country, because that's what water can do too. And, we drown in it just playing in the lakes. There's things that water do that's not all happy and that's all good. So we have to figure out what our end in mind is. So with that said, let's go into what the 7 steps of treatment are, and then we'll wrap up this week's. When I say begin with the end in mind, it's the equivalent of step 3 in the 7 steps of treatment, which is an affirmation. The very first step of treatment is recognition. And I equate that to being proactive when it comes to the 7 habits. Proactive means you put a space in between an action instead of bumping up against it. If somebody hit you, you want to hit them back. If somebody swears at you, you want to swear back. You want to put a space in between. And how I make that an equivalent to the first step of treatment is that's the recognition. I don't have to act against this person. Let's put God in the middle. Let's put lateral law in the middle. Let's begin with the end in mind in the middle. And when we put that in the middle, we're not going to crash against nothing, because that power is there. So if that power is there, it gives us the opportunity to recognize we're one with that power. We feel it. That's step 2. It's like, oh my goodness, I didn't punch them in the face and I wanted to, so there was a power that said, no, your end in mind is freedom. You don't want to be taken away, or your freedom, or your life, whatever it is that we can do in those angst. So if we put that power there and we know we're one with that power, step 2, step 3, we affirm. What is it that we really want? And Ava's affirmation was, in her heart, she needed more money, and money was starting to come in. Now she's got a permanent situation about a weekly or bi-weekly, however she gets paid, increase already. And it happened already. She got the news one day, and within days of that same week, it happened. God is on time. It doesn't, all we do, the next step would be to give thanks and release it. And that means it's done. So those are 5 steps. But I do 7 sometimes, because with the affirmation and the gratitude and the release, sometimes there's some idea in our mind that God's not capable, or law is not capable, or I haven't seen it done before, or how is it going to happen? There's some question about the ability for this to appear. So I call that step 4, denial. That gives us an opportunity to not bypass our afraidness, our frustration, our lack of ever seeing it before. We get to address it. But what we do is we leave it there, knowing that whatever said we can't do it is not really true, because all power does is do what we ask it to do. So if we can just address that, oh yeah, everybody else says we can't, but I know the power makes everything good and happen. So it would be step 4, denial, face the fears. And then step 5, do it anyway, because we're going to have fear about something. I don't think, if you don't have butterflies in your stomach about something, you might not even be giving your whole heart to it, but they won't stay there. Questions about that? That makes sense when there's something that bothers you?
It makes sense to me. I guess my question is, what happens when like you got the end in mind, but that's not right. You know what your goal is, but if I really sit in my truth, that shouldn't be my goal. I think of, and I'm gonna give you some context, because I think about married men. So
Okay.
my goal is to be in a relationship with a man, and as this is unfolding, he is married. So how do I, with the end, my goal is out there, my end in mind is right there. How do I traverse this path to either get him or not?
Well, what I would say to that is there is some lesson in the fact that you drew someone that you thought was available that revealed that they're not. And there must be some interest at some level. But what happens with the 7 habits, even before we get into being proactive and beginning with the end in mind, is what our background is. You know, how we were brought up, what we saw, our genetics. You know, what feeds us, what we have to have. That's back to what we have in the movies. So once we get that set up, what our paradigms are, we have to see what our character is. So once we set up whether we can do something or not, we're not invading our own integrity. We have to determine what's integrity to us. So there's not one set answer to me when it comes to that, because it's what you can live your highest with. So if you think you're settling, which I never do, I don't think that's a God thing. I think a God thing is always more. So if it's not bringing you more and you're getting less, then you haven't really even paused to be proactive to begin with the end in mind. The end in mind is a loving relationship. So the pause is giving that energy, that power, the ability to sort through all these different kinds of people out here to bring you the one, but every one you get is telling you something. Because there's something you're saying to you and you're seeing it. Everything is a demonstration in our life, even if we don't like it. Because I don't like something, I'm telling you. We won't go there tonight. But we can draw even what we don't think we want, but we're getting what we're thinking about, not what we're really speaking of. So when you speak more to that energy that plants the seed and makes the thing grow, get more defining, even with this relationship that you're looking at or in or trying to sort out. See if it's got all the ingredients that you want. And it sounds like it doesn't already, but start to look at it and see how it grows. Because if it doesn't grow, it's not healthy. Healthy things grow, and they grow with little effort. That's the God part. When we're struggling at it, keep pulling at it, looking at it, why it ain't growing, staring at, wait, this ain't right. And we can examine every little thing, now we're managing God, and we're not supposed to really manage God. Does that make sense?
It did. It did to a certain degree.
Okay, tell me where it stopped.
Yeah, I think about and just put all my business out there. So, so this married man, he separated, but I was friends with him and his wife. And now that is crumbling, then I'm here. And so I'm trying to get one with God in terms of I'm here, there's a relationship. He is in a relationship, at least legally. And I'm trying to make that sit right with me. Because that wouldn't sit right with you, right?
I'm not you. Each of us are individuals, because I've had friends that do what they do. I have to do what works with how I'm built. Everybody has to do what works with how they're built. They're answering to how they sleep at night and how things are faced in their lives. So you have to really know what your core values are. And you only decide those, because principle is principle. Law works the way law works, but your values are personal. Other questions? No other questions. Okay. All right. So with that, habit one is really the recognition of a power bigger. You pause. And then habit two, begin with the end in mind. Habit three, put first things first. All of that starts with you. Everybody has to know what is important to them. Nobody gets to decide that. So when you know what's important to you, you operate from that. When you know what happiness is to you, you operate from that. So that's recognition as a power bigger. You can't stop recognizing a power bigger and think something bigger is not going to happen. Or how did I say that right? You have to, when you recognize there's something bigger, bigger things happen. When you don't, you don't. Makes sense? Then let's look at the closing. Any questions about all 7 steps? You got them, Avis? Tell me what they are. You've been writing them down.
I'm missing one and I'm not understanding why. But anyway, what I have is recognition, unification, affirmation, denial, gratitude, and release.
Okay, cool. Which one, do you use all 7 steps when you pray?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Okay, very good. So with that said, we're going to move into closing out. If there are no more questions, and those of you who are online, please join us. It's great when there are questions. It's really kind of interesting how people think and what's important to them. But this is what's important to me. The Richer Living, if you don't have a copy of that, look it up online. It is fabulous. It is by Raymond Charles Barker and Ernest Holmes. And it is the most powerful daily affirmation that I've connected with. I want to write something for children with this. And I look forward to anybody who knows foster care. I do want to talk about that for one quick second before we close out. Kids that are aging out, I want to get them the 7 steps of treatment, 5 steps of treatment, in the habit of praying, because I know as a child, I knew that there was a power greater than me, and I used it. So I'm thinking as we get into foster care with the children that are aging out, that they will be able to know that the power is within them. So anybody who knows about that, please get Happy Academy connected. August 22nd, as we close out, God takes care of me. Psalm 139:3, thou compass my path and my lying down, and art acquainted with all my ways. Psalm 139:3, thou compass my path and my lying down, and art acquainted with all my ways. Omnipresence, which is also another name for God, and omniscience is also another name for God. So omnipresence surrounds me, and omniscience is mine. Never for an instant does God separate himself from his creation. Always there is an abiding presence and a beneficent power. I am forever established in my good. For whatever I am, there is the law to produce it. I am never forsaken. I am never alone. As I turn in thought to God, all love appears in my heart, and all peace acts in mine. People unconsciously respond to Christ within me and share their good with me. I have divine protection all through the day and the night. There is nothing to fear, for divine intelligence is my inner security, and I am led in the paths of blessings. A loving presence enfolds me, and the security not born of man is mine. Never again will I feel the future, regret the past, or be anxious about the present. I have absolute faith in the power of God and want heaven right here where I am, and God is the only reality. The truth has set me free of fear, and I walk undaunted the pathways of God. I immerse in my good, and I'm aware of it. I laugh at fear, and I declare faith. The Spirit is within me as the definite guidance and complete success. I am protected from all evil, for divine intelligence inspires me to right action. God knows I'm successful, healthy, and peaceful. I now join with God in knowing this. All other human speculation are as nothing For God alone is true, and success alone is possible. I let God act in my world, and I know that divine love upholds me in righteousness and peace. Always the Lord is at hand, ye even within me. I am blessed and sustained by the Christ within my soul. And now it is. And so it is. So I'll see you next week on H2O Monday. Remember to stay hydrated, stay happy, and stay whole. Thanks, Avis. Keep those demonstrations coming. Bye, everybody on Facebook.
Take care, Angela. Love you.